In the spirit of the upcoming and much scrutinized Double Dragon Neon, Awesome Games takes a look at the sequel that popularized the brawling beat-em-up genre. As a 10-year-old kid, there were few things cooler than martial arts. The 1984 film The Karate Kid had instilled the notion that any suburban schoolboy could learn the teachings of Mr. Miyagi, defeat those evil rich brats from the Cobra Kai dojo, and make out with a hot cheerleader. Unfortunately for many of us, schoolyard scuffles and hallway browbeating never seem to have such fairy tale outcomes, but where to dispose of all of that primary schoolyard rage? With a beat-em-up game, of course. Side-scrolling beat-em-up games had already been around for a few years in the arcades, one of the originals being Kung Fu Master, notable for its great punch-kick gameplay and homogeneous backgrounds. A couple of years later, Japanese developer Technos released Renegade, which introduced new gameplay elements like four-way directional control, enemies that could take multiple hits, and punch-kick-jump combos. The plot was still minimal, but hey, this was the 1980s. As acclaimed as Renegade became over the years for kickstarting the beat-em-up genre, it wasn't until Technos followed up with Double Dragon in 1987 that it gained true mainstream appeal. Now, two players, one red, one blue, could play cooperatively and rescue the girl together and pick up those dropped melee weapons that everyone's always dying to use. Unfortunately, the early generation console ports were plagued with technical issues. For example, the NES version couldn't play two players simultaneously, and no more than two enemies could appear on the screen at once. The Sega Master System had brighter colors and the co-op gameplay, but it still maxed out at only 3 enemies on the screen, and it had to glaze over graphical detail on some of the bosses, most notably a bald head replacing first stage boss Abobo's wicked mohawk. But things were getting better. The third time was a charm for Technos. Just a year later, they had a new and improved sequel that would bring down the house in the arcades. Enter Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. Aptly named, the plot was not about a rescue, but about the two brothers seeking retribution against the Shadow Warriors for killing Marion, the girlfriend they fought so hard to rescue in the franchise's previous installment. New ass-whooping moves were introduced, like the high uppercut, which was great at countering incoming jump attacks, and the high kick, a devastating jumping knee to the face move that would knock over a group of studded henchmen. There was even a jumping spin kick that preceded Ryu's Hurricane Kick in Street Fighter II: The World Warrior. The co-op mode on the NES had two options, two sub-modes, A and B, the former eliminating friendly fire and the latter causing frustration and broken friendships. We can't remember how many times our big brothers lured us into the game on mode B and then proceeded to beat the shit out of our character before throwing him off the edge of a building. But all sibling rivalry aside, finishing the game together was an astonishing victory. The same post-apocalyptic urban setting of New York City was reused, albeit with a few more colors and shades, and the cutscenes had been lengthened with more visuals adding to the atmosphere of an epic quest of revenge. Double Dragon 2 was not the be-all, end-all of the beat-em-ups, but it did set the scene for future arcade and later console games like Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and Golden Axe. But we can honestly say that out of all those games, we played Double Dragon 2 the most. Not because it was a better game, but because it was by far the best game of its time. What doesn't necessarily make a game a classic is a tricked-up remake 20 years later. Double Dragon 2 was a great game in its heyday, and we still respect it. But like the other skeptics, we seriously doubt Neon will do the Double Dragon franchise justice. The scrolling brawler game style is not dead. iOS developers have cashed in on iPhone-wielding gaming hipsters to create some real gems, but these games just don't belong on PCs or consoles anymore. I mean, 3D character modeling for a 2D game just seems lame, and lighting up the environment like a trashy 80s nightclub just doesn't sell us either. Double Dragon 2: The Revenge will go down in history as the quintessential beat-em-up and a predecessor for the 90s fighting game craze. Let's just hope it doesn't have to turn too much in its grave this summer.